If you've been anywhere near the East Tennessee housing market lately, you've probably had this thought cross your mind. Should I just buy a house or should I build one from scratch? Well, today we are going to dive deep into what it really takes and what it really costs to build a custom home in one of the area's absolute hottest markets, Maryville, Tennessee.
Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and get right to the big question. What's the bottom line? How much does a custom home in Maryville actually cost to build for 2025 and heading into 2026? We are going to break down every single piece of that puzzle, from the price of the land itself to the construction costs and all those little hidden expenses you might not see coming.
So before we even touch the numbers, let's start with the why. Why Maryville? I mean, it has become a major hotspot for new construction. There's still land available and a huge demand for new homes. So what's really driving this boom?
Honestly, it's kind of like a perfect storm of awesome factors all coming together. You've got major employers like Denso and Smith & Wesson, which creates a really steady stream of good jobs. And what follows jobs? Families. And what do families look for? Great schools, which the Blount County system definitely has. It all creates this amazing blend of a charming, small-town lifestyle, but with super easy access to Knoxville. That's what's fueling this housing demand and making a new build a really solid long-term investment. All right, let's get into it. The numbers. We're going to start with the core construction cost, and the way builders talk about this is per square foot. Now, the key thing to remember here, and this is a big one, is that this price is for the house only. It doesn't include the land you're going to build it on.
So there it is. The general range you can expect to pay a builder in Maryville is somewhere between about $175 and $300 per square foot. I know, that's a pretty wide range, right? So let's break down what you actually get at those different price points.
Okay, let's dig into that range. At the entry level, that's your standard builder-grade finishes. Think things that are functional and look good, but aren't super custom. When you move into that mid-range, that's where you start to see upgrades like custom cabinets, stone countertops, and nice tile showers. You know, those touches that really give a home that personalized feel. And once you cross that $250 a foot mark, you're getting into high-end territory. We're talking luxury features, specialty materials, and really detailed architectural work. The big takeaway is that your choices on finishes will dramatically impact that final cost.
So to put that into perspective, let's use a pretty common home size, 2,500 square feet. Using those per square foot numbers we just talked about, the construction cost alone for a home this size could be anywhere from around $437,000 on the lower end, all the way up to $750,000 for a really high-end build. And remember, that's before we've even bought the dirt to put it on.
And speaking of the dirt, let's talk about the other massive piece of your budget, the land itself. This cost is completely separate from the build, and believe me, it can vary just as much as the house.
So a standard lot in a subdivision where the utilities are already there and ready to go, that's typically going to run you between $60,000 and $120,000. If you want a premium lot, one with mountain views or a bit more acreage, you can expect to start at $150,000 and go up from there. But look at that last bar, site prep. Man, this is the one that catches so many people by surprise. Clearing trees, grading the land, and bringing in utilities can easily tack on another $10,000 to $50,000 or even more.
Okay, so we've got the house and we've got the land. But what are the specific choices you are going to make that can cause your budget to either swell up or shrink down? Let's dive into the key drivers.
These are the big five. Home size is pretty obvious. Bigger costs more. No surprise there. But design complexity plays a huge role. A simple rectangular home is way cheaper to build than one with tons of corners, steep roofs, or a walkout basement. And your material selections, everything from the flooring to the faucets, that's another massive factor. Even the efficiency of your HVAC system can impact the final price.
This might be the single most important question you can ask your builder. You've agreed on a price per square foot, you've picked out your finishes, but what else are you on the hook for? What's not included? Think about all those finishing touches. Things like landscaping, putting up a fence, paving the driveway, and building that awesome deck you're dreaming of. A lot of times, those are not in the builder's base price. Same goes for stuff like window coverings, and even the fees to connect your utilities. It is absolutely vital that you get a detailed list from your builder that clarifies exactly what's included versus what's considered an upgrade or an allowance you have to cover.
Okay, so with all these costs swirling around in your head, we arrive at the ultimate decision for a lot of people. Does it make more sense to go through this whole building process, or should you just buy an existing home in Maryville?
Let's look at this side by side. Building gives you total customization. You get a modern layout, high energy efficiency, and fewer initial maintenance worries. It's brand new.
On the other hand, buying an existing home means you can move in way faster, the upfront cost might be a little lower, and you're in an established neighborhood. The big trade-off is that an older home might need some significant updates or renovations down the line. Look, there is no single right answer here. It really all comes down to your budget, your timeline, and what your personal priorities are.
So, you've seen the numbers, you've weighed the pros and cons. Let's wrap up with a few final practical considerations to help you decide if building a custom home in Maryville is really the right path for you.
One of the biggest factors is time. You have got to be patient. A semi-custom home in a subdivision might take 6 to 8 months to build. But a fully custom home on a private piece of land, you're easily looking at 9 to 12 months, and honestly, often longer, especially if you run into weather delays or supply chain issues.
You know, this quote really sums it all up perfectly. Building a home is not for the faint of heart. It demands patience, meticulous budgeting, and having a great team of professionals on your side. But for those who go through it, the reward of living in a home that was designed just for them, well, that's often well worth all the effort.
So now you're armed with the real numbers and the real factors for building in Maryville. The only question left is, what are you going to do with this information? What does that home you've been dreaming of actually look like? And is building the right way to make it your reality?